Good morning. I'm Barb Herrera, and this is Health at Any Cost. This is going to be my post-cruise talk, but as you see in the thumbnail, it says I ate 6 pieces of pizza. So we're going to work our way to the pizza. I had a wonderful time on the cruise. It was absolutely amazing. Everybody treated me wonderfully. It was so much fun. I made great friends in the GLP-1 community. I felt wonderful. It was very odd being the one who lost the most weight on the ship, at least that we knew in our group that we were. I started in April of 2022 at 405 pounds. I'm 5'1", and just today I weigh 124. But 125 is where I usually say. So 280 pounds is what I tell people I've lost. I did not gain on the cruise. I left at 128 and I came back at 128. And what's interesting is a lot of the people that I hung out with who have also lost a great deal of weight did the exact same thing. And we ate. It wasn't even like we didn't eat or spend time at the buffet or spend time in the restaurant. It was really wonderful. We had good food, but I do have to say, even though the food was good, none of it was memorable to me. Now, I have a long history of eating fine dining at Disney World and also Disneyland Resort restaurants. So it's a lot different than that. I have very memorable meals from those restaurants, from California Grill, Napa Rose. But I will tell you that the sommelier was so wonderful. I wanted a glass of Opus One or a glass of Jarvis, but they didn't have either of those on the ship. But the sommelier offered the I can't remember what it's called right this second. I'll think of it in a minute. And it was wonderful. I had one glass each night, and what he did was he opened it up and opened up the bottle. I did not have to buy the bottle. He let me buy it by the glass, which was still $40 a glass, but it was way worth it. It was so wonderful. That was memorable, except for I can't remember the name, of course. Here I am. It's 5 o'clock in the morning. I can't remember the name of the fabulous wine that I had. Begins with a C. It'll come to me, I promise. Anyway, so here I've got a list of things that I want to make sure that I talk about. The discussion for this morning is going to be about how confusing it was that I had so much attention on the cruise. I had a button made for me that said celebrity princess. My room was decorated. I got cupcakes for a lot of people with princesses on it. There were a lot of people that recognized me wherever I went, and call me by name or call me princess. And that was wonderful. But what was odd was I think I'm going to cry. I've got a little mini rag to wipe my tears. In my entire life, I've been invisible or thrown oranges, trash thrown at me, epithets thrown at me, moo, pig, fatso, things like that. And that's the majority of my life. I'm 64 years old. For 60 years, 55 years or so, I started getting fat when I was 7. For all those years, I've been huge. I had small blips of time where I lost a little weight on fen-phen in 96. And then I had a gastric bypass in 2001 where I lost 210 pounds, but I regained it within 5 years. And now I've been on the GLP-1 since April of 22. I was on Trulicity first. Now I'm on Mounjaro and have been on Mounjaro almost 22 months, I think is where I am, 20 months, somewhere around there. And I'm in maintenance. I have been on 15 milligrams all that time, and I am still on 15 milligrams once a week. And I have been stable since the middle of December. My weight has been stable, which is fantastic. And I feel amazing. And where I am right now, I walk to the gym a mile and a half. I go a mile and a half home. I'm going to go to the gym after this, climb on the treadmill for a while, do some weightlifting and things like that. But this is the new part of my life. This is not anything that I'm familiar with. And that made itself very obvious in retrospect on the cruise. There were parts of me that were confused, and I was having a hard time thinking, this is so surreal. This is so odd to have all this attention. But I didn't quite realize what my psyche was doing. Now, as I talked about before, I talked about how when I got the second cancer diagnosis, how I went to Wendy's and had a Frosty and fries and things like that. And I found myself eating, and I was baffled. I was like, what the heck? I know better than to eat these things. These things are not good for my body. They're not good for my brain. And yet here I was eating them. And then I researched and learned about different parts of the brain that operate like in the background. And they take care of my mental state, I guess is a good way of putting it. And my mental state was not good. It was very difficult for me to tolerate yet another cancer diagnosis in the moment that I'm reclaiming my entire life as a person who does not have morbid obesity, severe, extreme morbid obesity. For the 10 years before I went on GLP-1s, I was pretty much bedridden. I lived in my room. My kids had to come and help me clean my room, and they do not live in town. I took a shower about every 3 or 4 weeks because it would exhaust me. Now, yesterday I made my bed and I timed it, and it was about a minute and a half that it took me to change my bed. And before GLP-1s, when I was living in my bed, it took me 5 days to make my bed. I would do a corner and then I'd have to take a nap. And then a few hours later, I'd do a corner and then I'd take a nap. And then I would it was just like that. Even putting a pillowcase on a pillow was exhausting. It was horrible. And now here I am, jumping around, and it's just, I feel like I'm floating a lot of the time, and not just floating in my body, but also in my head. It's just confusing, and I'll get to that more in a second. I have a little piece of paper to remind myself of what I'm doing. So my coping mechanism my entire life has been food, as you can well imagine, and many of you have that as well. When I got stressed, when I was happy, when I was sad, and no matter what it was, I would eat. Clearly, the underlying pathway in my brain was when I got stressed, I ate, because that's what's happening now. I was giddy happy, and I did not overeat while I was on that cruise. It was gloriously happy. But my brain, in the back of my brain, knew that this is freaking different. This is so different than what you have ever experienced in your life. And that was when it kicked in. And one night I was talking to Gina and Jeff in the cafe, in the buffet, after midnight, or right around midnight. And Gina and Jeff are from Anchor Moments, which is wonderful. And I got a couple pieces of pizza, and I sat with them while I ate a couple pieces of pizza. And then when they left, I got up and I got 2 more pieces of pizza, and I stood not 5 feet away from the pizza and broke it apart and ate it, broke it apart and ate it, broke it apart and ate it, broke it apart and ate it. And I ate those 2 pieces within moments. And then I found myself, in retrospect, is when I noticed all this, that I walked back and I got 2 more pieces of pizza. Now, I don't think in my logic mind at the moment that I'd be able to eat one whole piece of pizza. So eating 6 pieces of pizza was just weird for me and for my body. I went to bed right afterwards. Megan and I, my daughter Megan and I shared a room, a stateroom, and I went to bed. And then when I woke up and I realized what I had done, which in my previous life I would never have reflected on, I woke up with a siren in my head, flashing red siren in my head. Oh my God, what did I do? I ate 6 pieces of pizza and I was momentarily in shock. When I got up and got dressed and we all met for breakfast, I ran into a few people and I confessed, which wasn't really what it was, but a lot of people will think it was a confession, but that's not what it was. And the people who've lost a lot of weight understood. And then there were other people that understood too. But I talked to Lorraine and Christopher at the buffet, who are from the Downsized, who sponsored the cruise. This was the Downsized Cruise. And I said to them what I had done. And it really was seeming like a confession, I guess, is because I was telling person after person. And they were so kind. Christopher hugged me, and Lorraine said something that was relevant. She said, "Did you taste it? What did it taste like?" And I said, "I did not taste one bit of it. It was like I had a shovel just shoveling it into my mouth, is all it was." And that's disconcerting, that I could be eating without any conscious knowledge whatsoever. And that's the majority of my life, has been that way. That's the majority of my life. And that was really frightening for me, and still is frightening for me. In all of this, I don't feel shame. That's one of the most interesting aspects of this, is that I don't feel shame for what I did. Whereas in the past, I would have been filled with shame and self-loathing for what I had done. This time I am able to make it make sense. There's logic to it. And that logic is that I'm overwhelmed. I'm overwhelmed with my situation in life. I'm overwhelmed with losing so much weight so fast. I'm overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed with all that attention on the ship. So there was no shame in that. But what I had was confusion. How could the same person, me, how could the same person be so lauded, could be so much a princess, could be taken care of so lovingly, yet I'm still the same person as I was that everybody made fun of? And the word, when I got home, the word that I was able to figure out when I got home for what I was feeling on the ship was disorientation. I was so disoriented by living a dual personality almost. And I'm not belittling or trying to claim any kind of mental illness with the partitions in my brain of before and after. I'm not trying to do that at all. but so disoriented about where do I fit now? Do I fit in the fat community when I was a fat activist and in the late 80s and early 90s? Do I fit now as a person that when people look at me, they never, over and over and over, we would never think you were that big. We would never think you were that big. And I took pride in sharing my picture, my before picture, and stand there with my legs apart and just not showing anything in between. I totally have a gap all the way from ankle to top. And being dressed, you would never know. I mean, you can see all this, you can see all that, but most people think it's just because I'm old. And I'm sure that's a lot of what it is. Who am I now? I'm starting therapy again, thank goodness, this week. I'm very excited about that. I've had therapy since I was 18, and I have not had one therapy session, and I have had thousands. I have not had one therapy session that went without talking about food. Trying hard to figure it out. OA, going to TOPS, going to all the different groups that Weight Watchers a million times, and just trying to figure out what's wrong, trying to find the right key to put in a hole to unlock what's going on in my body, what's going on in my brain. And now that I have GLP-1s, now that I have Manjaro, I have that key. But now that I've opened the door, where do I go now? The door, behind the door, is almost like a blinding white light, and I'm still walking in the dark or in the light, walking blindly. That's the word, blindly, towards something I don't know. And I know that there are a lot of people listening to this who are going to be like, you are so freaking weird. And that's okay. Not everybody's going to get this. Not everybody's going to do their mental gymnastics like I'm doing. A lot of people do have the body, what I call body mind integration syndrome, which is what generally people call body dysphoria. Body dysphoria is not the same thing that we have when we're confused about our body and we don't recognize ourselves and things like that. Body dysmorphia is when you concentrate on one part of your body, like your earlobe or your boobs or whatever, and you just stand in the mirror for an hour. And this is the clinical definition. Stand in the mirror for at least an hour a day, and you obsess about it, and you think, oh, maybe I should have surgery to get it fixed. My earlobe looks so funny, or whatever it is. That's body dysmorphia. Did I say dysphoria? Ooh, isn't that interesting? Huh. Dysmorphia. If I said it correctly the first time, in my head, I just said dysphoria. That's weird. Okay, I'm so weird. I tell you what, my mind is so jumbled at the moment. I'm making misspelling mistakes. I'm making spelling mistakes, misspelling words I've known how to spell my entire life. My brain is just confused. And it's not the medication. That's not what it is. It's life circumstances. And I have looked up all of this. I've talked to Claude, my GI friend, see, my AI friend, my AI imaginary friend, Claude. It's it's strange making these verbal mistakes and these. It's just it's just weird. I'm really glad I'm going to therapy, but I really know it's not me going crazy. I don't have Alzheimer's. I don't have dementia. That's not what it is. I looked those up too to make sure that that's not what's happening. What's happening is stress. And what has happened is my stress relief has been removed by the GLP-1s. Therefore, something has to give. And it's the parts of my brain as a writer that are being jumbled about. Jostled. That's a good word. I thought of a word. Um, yeah, it was really wonderful to know that people on the ship, that there were actually people in our group who had lost over 100 pounds, who, especially if they lost fast, like my daughter Megan lost pretty quickly, and then there were others as well. And they pretty much understand what it is that I'm talking about. Or I gave them a window into what might be happening with them. Sometimes it sucks being a trailblazer. I'll tell you what, sometimes it does. Okay, so now you have an idea of what's been happening in my brain. I have one more little thing to say to you because I told you all I've been prescribed eating chips because of my blood pressure being so low, and even with the medication, the Midodrine, it doesn't stay up enough. So the cardiologist prescribed chips, then she prescribed Fritos. Well, I'm telling you a piece of advice: do not eat potato chips with a chaser of protein drink, chocolate, because that made me so sick. I threw away all the chips. I will not eat chips again. Negative reinforcement. It took me a day or so to be able to drink the chocolate, the Premier Protein chocolate drink, which I love, but it was so disgusting. And then throwing up chocolate drink and chips, not pleasant. So that's my piece of advice to you all. Don't do that. Okay, now I've got to go to the gym. I love you all so much. Thanks for listening to this. And I'm Barb Herrera, and this is Health at Any Cost. And you all are my support. And I love that about you. Thank you so, so much. Ciao. Oh, let's see if we can get this off.